Midwich, a small town, has another typical day. Sam and Zoe, a young couple who are moving to this area to start a new life, celebrate by having a sexy time on the floor of their new home. Before telling her daughter Cassie that she is going on a date in London, psychiatrist Susanna wraps up another session of therapy. Jody travels from the city to see her sister Deborah, who is expecting. Rita, a co-worker of Stuart's, accepts his invitation to stay at his house so they can have some fun while Stuart's family is away for the weekend. All of a sudden, the town's power goes out, starting with tiny flickers that eventually turn off all devices. Additionally, all of the animals are beginning to become agitated and uneasy in their homes. Officer Paul gets a report at the police station about the town's power lines, but they can't figure out what's wrong. The entire power goes out a few seconds later. Because they are so uneasy, the horses at the nearby stable eventually force the doors open and run through the town like they are afraid of something. A boy wakes up in the school and frightens his teacher Jane by standing still in the middle of the hallway with a blank stare. Everyone in town starts handing out right where they are standing when a bright light from the sky hits the school garden. After Susanna finishes her date in London, she tries to take the train, but the power is out, so she has to take a taxi instead. Charlotte, Stuart's daughter, awakens at her grandmother's house to the sound of her mother Sarah watching the news. Despite the absence of social media posts from residents, the power outage appears to have sealed off Midwich. When Susanna gets to the town, she finds that the police have blocked the road and won't let her through, even when she says that she lives there. When Susanna makes the decision to enter the town via a deserted road through the woods, she encounters a group of people wearing hazmat suits. A man is being tested by being tied to a rope and allowed to walk further into town. However, as soon as he gets close to a sleeping citizen, the man also falls asleep. Susanna begins to flee when some of these people see her and try to stop her, but she also passes out. Paul meets Bryony, a special agent sent by the Home Office to look into the situation in Midwich. They can't figure it out at the police station, especially when the drones they sent back with nothing but static. Paul and Bryony go to Midwich, where they meet Susanna in a tent outside the border after they are informed that a body has woken up. It appears that those who were not present at the time of the events quickly fall asleep. Susanna explains that before everything went quiet, she experienced lightness and dizziness. Paul plays a message that Deborah left on his voicemail before everything went wrong while Susanna is taken to a shelter and Paul and Bryony approach the town limit. The static interrupted Deborah's explanation that she was afraid of the power outages. A helicopter is sent to investigate the following morning. The helicopter takes off normally, but as it gets closer to downtown, both of its pilots pass out, and the helicopter crashes to the ground. Susanna meets Sarah, who has just arrived, as the phased evacuation is finally approved and the people who lived outside the area with a strange unconsciousness are let out of town. Susanna starts making a scene because neither of them wants to leave without their families, and soldiers and Paul arrive to stop her. All of a sudden, messages and calls start arriving on everyone's phones. Stuart is in a state of panic when he discovers that his wife has returned while Rita is still present. Sarah calls as it appears that people are beginning to wake up. When Bryony finds out that Paul hasn't communicated with his wife yet, she agrees to check on her and the police begin preparing for a comprehensive investigation. When Bryony gets to the house, she finds that the sisters have been knocked out while the gas stove was on, so they are still unconscious. Bryony is successful in getting Jody to wake up, but when she goes to check on Deborah, it is too late. The baby and the mother are both dead. Many women begin to feel something in their stomachs as families reunite all over the town. Everyone in town is making every effort to return to normal after the incident, which occurred 2 months ago. Jody is pregnant, so Paul goes to see her and tells her they need to talk about it. Because Zoe is also pregnant, Sam and Zoe are thrilled. However, when they go to the hospital for the first checkup, they are shocked to find that there are a lot of other women and their husbands in the back building. They are informed by a government agent that every woman in town who was of childbearing age at the time of the incident became pregnant that day. Paul wants everyone to sign the Official Secrets Act because the Midwich incident is considered a red-level threat. However, the order doesn't go over well with anyone, especially when they find out that a camera is recording everything. When Zoe tries to call her lawyer, she finds that the signals aren't working and that soldiers are also coming to block the exit. Susanna steps in as a mediator because things are getting too heated, pointing out that there can't be a coincidence with all of these pregnancies. Zoe makes an effort to show that she is the real deal, but the other women talk about their experiences, saying that some of them haven't been with a man in a long time or don't like men at all. All of the town's teenage girls arrive at that point and reveal that they are also pregnant, eventually persuading everyone to sign the papers so that the government can properly investigate. The pregnant women then undergo some fundamental tests. Paul calls Susanna while she is waiting outside, and he takes her to the office to introduce her to Bernard, a Home Office official. Susanna's handling of the situation impressed everyone, so they asked her to be a counselor for pregnant women. Instead of allowing Jody to return to the city after the tests are finished, Paul takes her to live at his house. Zoe receives a call from the hospital the following day stating that the fetus only contained the mother's DNA, not the father's. Sam begs her not to end the pregnancy, reminding her that doctors have previously told them they only have a 1% chance of having a child. Stuart receives a text message from Amrita announcing her own pregnancy. Cassie makes the decision to end her pregnancy. She meets Nora at the hospital, who relates that a friend of hers attempted to post about the incident on social media, but the police took it down. Rachel joins the girls, and the three prepare to sign the termination paperwork. However, as the lights begin to flicker, the three women drop their pens and then leave the hospital in a trance-like state. Paul learns from Bryony, who is observing all of this through the security cameras, that the same thing occurred to all of the women who attempted to terminate the pregnancy. Even though their bellies are larger than they should be, the pregnant women continue to live as usual 5 months later with the assistance of Susanna's counseling. Bernard sends Bryony a cryptic file containing secret information about the Russian town of Nordosk. Zoe attempts to board the train to leave the city, but a baffling force prevents her from doing so. She tells Susanna when she goes to see her that she felt like the baby was holding her back from leaving. Every pregnant woman discovers that her waters have broken simultaneously as the town's lights begin to flicker suddenly. After a few hours of labor that was exhausting, everyone is taken to the hospital, where the babies are born. Even though Zoe still looks at her child with suspicion, they appear perfectly normal. The babies open their eyes later that night, revealing that they are glowing. Families are told to continue living their normal lives for the next 2 years, but the government says they can't talk to anyone else. Through the window, Zoe's daughter Hannah and Rachel's son Joe make eye contact with Sunny, Amrita's daughter, who has been living with her mother in the city with the money Stuart sent them. Amrita explains that Sunny insisted on coming when she and Sunny arrived in town a few hours later to see Stuart. Sam will serve as their teacher at a special school because the children are maturing so rapidly. The lights start to flicker during the school tour, and the kids run to the window to see that Charlotte is bringing Sunny. As soon as Sunny joins the group, the kids immediately make a circle around her and give her a school jacket. Jane's dog suddenly starts barking at the kids and tries to chase them, but the kids turn around and stare at the dog in a creepy way to get him to stop. When Zoe breaks the circle to take Hannah away, she receives the same glare. Zoe asks Hannah how she knew that girl at home, and Hannah responds that they have always known her. Susanna visits Amrita to verify her pregnancy following the incident. Amrita tells Susanna that she tried to end the pregnancy as well, but she left the hospital in the end. Amrita refuses Paul's offer to tell her she can't leave town and tells Sunny they are leaving. However, Sunny does not wish to leave, rather, she wishes to remain with the other children, and she continues by addressing each unique child by name. Moments later, they carry out an experiment in which a series of images are used to demonstrate that each child is part of a hive mind, meaning that what one child sees is seen by the entire group. Zoe sneaks into the office to speak with Amrita about how the government pays them to isolate the town. Zoe advises Amrita to leave as soon as she can after the women exchange numbers. Hannah makes Zoe stop later to watch Jane's dog being retrieved from the creek while she is driving her daughter home. Hannah smiles as she sees that the pet appears to be dead. Zoe is very scared when they get home, and Hannah tells Sam that she only loves him because Zoe hates her. Cassie receives the test results from Susanna and inquires about them later with her daughter Evie. Evie says that she can hear what her friend is thinking and that she didn't say anything to scare her mother, but Cassie says she will always be loved. Evie then completes a drawing of the dead dog. Later, as Sam prepares his vehicle, he talks to Curtis, Rachel's husband, who laments the government's handling of the situation. Curtis only cares about David, the son they already had before the incident. He doesn't consider Joe to be his son and only uses him for money. Zoe looks inside for Hannah, who suddenly says that they didn't hurt the dog and makes her mother move, causing her mother's hand to get burned by the boiling water. Zoe then looks inside for Hannah. Hannah lets Zoe go when she's hurt and says again that the dog's death wasn't their fault. Amrita is still certain that she wants to leave, but Susanna persuades her to try the project. While she looks over Sunny, who asserts that she has always known the other children, she takes Amrita to speak with Sarah. Sunny vanishes when Susanna turns away for a moment, and Sunny reappears next to Sarah when Amrita gets up to look for her. Sunny calls Sarah Mummy as the lights begin to flicker, and the child asks Sarah for a hug. Amrita takes Sunny away hurt. Zoe visits Susanna after all the children have gone to bed to explain what happened to her hand and how Sunny's arrival made things worse, but Susanna is skeptical. Amrita informs Sunny that it is time to leave in the interim, awakening the special kids. Amrita and Sunny reach the parking lot. Before trying to persuade Sunny to get in the car, Amrita leaves a message on Zoe's phone. Sunny refuses, and as the lights begin to flicker and the special kids approach their windows to look out the window, her eyes begin to glow. Charlotte wakes up a few seconds later to find Sunny outside the house. Sarah explains that Sunny only stated that Amrita dropped her there and left before Susanna is summoned to assist. Susanna considers bringing Sunny with her, but Sunny wants to remain there, so Sarah agrees. No one can call Amrita on the phone. Paul calls Susanna at that moment to inform her that he has discovered Amrita's car still parked in the parking lot. When they go to look into it, they find that every door is open, but only one of Amrita's shoes is inside. Zoe is listening to Amrita's voicemail at the same time, and when she goes to check on Hannah, the child makes a gesture as if to ask her to keep the secret. After a few days, every child enrolls in the special school and excels academically in every subject. Amrita's disappearance is still under investigation by Bryony and Paul, but while she was present, all of the security cameras malfunctioned. Cassie believes that the mothers should all accept Susanna's presentation of the hive mind as an evolutionary step. Zoe does not attend this meeting because she has been having nightmares since Sunny arrived, and she is getting sick of Hannah sneaking into her bed every night. When Susanna touches Evie's forehead while she is having a nightmare at night, she sees a hand pressed against a door in a frozen landscape. Paul notices that the van next to Amrita's car is different when he compares the hotel footage from before and after the glitch the following day. A worker at the warehouse that sells frozen goods tells him that the van that went missing is broken when he finds it there. Paul still looks at it, and when he looks inside, he finds Amrita's body. Susanna is simultaneously looking over Evie's drawings when she comes across one of Amrita. Bryony and Paul later tell Bernard about their experiences, pointing out that the van shouldn't have been cold for so long if it was broken. In order to maintain town peace, Bernard asks them to conceal the truth. While waiting for their fathers, Paul's son Nathan and Joe play on the school swings. David wants to play on the swings as well when Curtis and David show up, so Curtis takes Joe out of the game and gives David the spot. Joe and Nathan are unhappy about this, so they start glaring at David until the swing loses control, hitting Curtis with the seat, and David falls. Zoe doesn't want to talk when Susanna goes to see her because she hasn't been sleeping well because of Hannah. Susanna asks Hannah if she's having nightmares when she sees the child, but Hannah denies it. Curtis arrives with David, who is injured, and blames Joe for everything, despite Sam's claim that it was an accident. Zoe plays Amrita's message to Sam at night, pointing out how strange it is that she left without Sunny. They're unexpectedly hindered by Hannah, who needs to lay down with them once more. Hannah retaliates by forcing Zoe to hit her head against the wall as Zoe drags Hannah to her own bed. Zoe claims Hannah forced her to do it, but Sam doesn't believe her when he comes to check on her. When Susanna tries to touch Evie's forehead the following morning, her hand freezes. Sam says hi to Curtis and learns that as a punishment, he won't let Joe go to school. Hannah scratches Curtis' car because she is enraged by this, and he yells at her. Later, Susanna asks to see Nathan when she goes to the school during nap time. She starts asking questions about the swing incident after taking out a recorder. This makes Natha feel uneasy, and as the lights start to flicker, all the kids go outside and start pounding on the windows. Sam comes to check on Nathan as he starts to scream, and he finds that all the kids are pointing at Susanna to blame her. Susanna then tells Paul and Bryony about the nightmares the kids. She visits an old friend in London, with whom she tells the whole story. Zoe declines the guy's kiss and flirtatious invitation, realizing that they are being watched and that the kids let her go because they want her out. Bernard watches her from afar as she flees. Hannah asks Sam at home why he allowed Curtis to yell at her. Curtis is beaten up after Sam suddenly loses all self-awareness and leaves the house. Sam tells Zoe what happened when she gets home and finally believes Hannah has control over them. They agree to collaborate to resolve the issue and reconcile by having a raunchy time on the couch. While Susanna watches over Evie, she suggests to Cassie that she go out for a night. Evie asks Susanna to go for a walk and play hide and seek as soon as Cassie leaves. Susanna looks for Evie and finds her on the train tracks, where she makes the accusation that she wants the children to die, while Nathan tells Paul that Evie is afraid her grandmother wants to hurt her. When Susanna sees a train, she starts chasing Evie down the tracks. Thankfully, Paul also shows up and saves them just in time. Because Cassie is with him and believes that the incident at school and this proves Susanna isn't safe, she and Evie will no longer live with them. Later on, Susanna becomes so depressed that the counseling sessions have to be taken over by another doctor. Zoe starts writing a memoir about everything that has happened since the incident. She tells Sam about it but keeps Hannah in the dark about it. When Paul goes to the station to clean up Susanna's recording, he hears a lot of kids screaming in Russian, including the word Nordosk. Zoe tells Bryony and Bernard that she wants to go with Sam and meets with them. She promises to destroy all copies of her memoir if they assist her. Sam receives a message from Zoe at school informing him that she has secured the deal. After that, Sam turns back to the kids, who are looking at a bush of venomous berries. Zoe realizes she may be pregnant as she walks home and suddenly stops to touch her stomach. She purchases a pregnancy test right away to confirm it, which she must conceal when Hannah arrives home and becomes suspicious. After that, Zoe has a private conversation with Sam and tells him that they should leave town and leave Hannah behind. Joe sees Zoe through the window, where she is storing the draft of her memoir. Hannah enters the room to investigate after mentally receiving this information. In order to steal the Nordosk file, Paul sneaks into Bryony's office and finds a report about a special school. The reason why none of them survived is not mentioned in the report. While Sam is taking Hannah to the school picnic, the other kids turn to glare at him as he does so. Sam immediately informs Zoe via text that the kids were aware that they were leaving. Despite Zoe's desire to leave, Sam abandons the picnic while the children observe him from the woods. When Susanna goes to Cassie, she tells her about the dark place she was in when she became a mother, but she insists that she is now better. She tries to explain that these kids are dangerous, and Susanna wonders how Cassie hurt her hand when she denies it. Susanna finally admits that Amrita is dead, and any parent could be the next, considering Cassie's continued blindness. When it starts to rain at that point, everyone at the picnic heads home. When Evie learns that Susanna is with Cassie, she becomes enraged and declares that it is too late to stop this. Zoe discovers her memoir's missing copy as Sam and Zoe get ready to leave. Sam discovers Joe when he hears a noise outside, and Joe uses his power to force Sam to grab a bottle of herbicide to put an end to things for himself. Inside, Hannah locates Zoe and attempts to coerce her into eating the venomous berries. Evie, who wants to stop Sam from leaving, attempts to reason with Susanna. The lights dim even more when she mentions Nordosk. In the meantime, Bryony discovers Paul with the file and learns that the town of Nordosk had the same problems with pregnancy many years ago. She had to lie because Bernard had told her to. Evie also confirms this story at the same time, saying that the previous group of special needs kids were not welcome, so they were kept in a freezing classroom while the adults got away. The school was later bombed by the Russians. Paul rushes to Zoe's house when Cassie calls for help, but Nathan knocks him unconscious to stop him. Susanna says that they won't have another Nordosk and that the kids will always be loved. Evie tells the other kids that she better keep that promise, and they immediately cancel all of the deaths they were about to cause for Paul, Zoe, and Sam. 2 years later, the community is harmonious. The parents have stopped being cruel because they treat the children with love. Bernard wants to take the children to a military base for more advanced testing because they have quickly turned into teenagers. This bothers Susanna, but Bernard reveals that the kids themselves asked to see what's outside the town. Ellie, Sam and Zoe's new daughter, was born, but Curtis and Rachel split up. David absolutely despises spending a few days a week with Curtis, and Hannah can see his tantrum from across the street with glowing eyes. David later manages to elude his father's house and attempts to enter the school, but the fence is locked. Evie and Nathan are later taken to the military base by Susanna and Paul, despite the fact that the adults are not permitted to observe the tests. Sam discovers that the children are not in the classroom when the lights start flickering in both the base and the school while Evie and Nathan are being tested. At the same time that everyone else has succumbed to their injuries at the military base, Sam goes to look for them but collapses on the cellar stairs. David enters the school through the cellar stairs, where he discovers that every student is standing in a circle with their eyes glowing due to power outages. David flees when he sees Joe and becomes so terrified that he drops his toy. Sam wakes up at that moment and sees David as well. A gunshot wakes Susanna and Paul up at the base. It turns out that the kids made the men shoot another soldier. However, nothing is said about it, and Evie and Nathan are permitted to return home. Rachel is horrified to discover that her son's eyes are white when she rushes out of the house when she sees David arrive in town. Susanna tries to ask David questions later at the hospital, but the child only says school. Additionally, he continues to experience nightmares due to the fact that the kids surrounded him in the forest when he attempted to flee the school and erased his memory. Paul tells Jody about the base when he gets home, but Nathan interrupts him. He tells his parents that he doesn't want to leave them while holding a sharp object. Sam checks the stairs after dreaming that David is running away from the school and discovers the toy. Zoe asks him not to go to Paul to protect Ellie after he shows it to her. Rachel overhears Bernard telling Joe at the hospital that he let David ruin the project. Rachel grabs David out of fear and leaves the hospital. When Rachel calls to warn her about them, Susanna writes to Earth Monitor to explain the latest problem. However, when Joe discovers that she is missing from the room, the communication is cut off. When Rachel arrives in her vehicle, they cause her to crash and kill her after all the children receive the information and leave their homes to block the road. Bernard meets with the parents the following day to inform them that the children no longer feel safe and will be removed. Because it indicates that the previous 5 years were pointless, Nora and Jane are furious. Evie's daughter hurts Cassie by completely ignoring her when she asks Evie to see the big picture. Later, rather than returning David to Curtis, Bernard orders him to remain in the hospital. Sam finally caves in and hands Paul the toy at the end of the day. Paul calls Susanna, and the two of them check the school cellars together. There is a burned circle on the ground, indicating that David saw something, so Paul called Susanna. Abruptly the power starts glinting and Paul goes outside to check, finding 2 children that take the keys away from him and lock the basement entryway, leaving Susanna caught inside. Paul is taken back to the town by the children, who request that he spend the night with Nathan. Paul still wants to save Susanna, and when Nathan tries to stop him, Paul finds that the boy has a sharp object in his hand. Paul wants to save Susanna anyway. Nathan explains that the others cannot understand what he is thinking if he is in pain. Susanna notices Bernard's eyes glowing as he enters the cellar at that exact moment. Curtis purchases a firearm by paying a dealer the following morning. Hannah threatens to kill Ellie at Zoe's house until Sam admits he found the toy. When Jane arrives at work, she locates Susanna and releases her. Cassie has overdosed and needs to be taken to the hospital, so Susanna runs home. Susanna responds to Bryony and Paul's request to speak with her, revealing that she is familiar with Nordosk and that one of the children who survived the bombing is Bernard. Joe abruptly interrupts their conversation and requests that Susanna accompany him. Joe throws Paul against the wall as he tries to defend her. Joe begins questioning Susanna and threatens to break the glass ceiling on her when she agrees to go with him. Curtis stops his plans and immediately shoots Joe and the guard who emerges. All of the children, including Evie, who is visiting her mother, are affected by Joe's passing. Cassie persuades her to take her with her when she tries to leave. David is grabbed by Curtis as they make their way out of the hospital after he enters and kills as many guards as necessary. Susanna stops them on their way out and tells them that the kids won't let him leave. When Paul shows up and shoots Curtis first, the kids attempts to get Curtis to shoot David prove her point. After that, Susanna finds out that Cassie has left and receives a call from Evie informing her that Cassie will be leaving with them the following day. Earth Monitor sends Susanna a message requesting that she stop them. When Paul returns home, he finds Nathan gone. Jody explains that the boy left a note saying help me even though he didn't want to leave but had to. A meeting with all of the parents is called to confirm that all of the children have fled their homes and are now hiding in the school. Even Bryony was unaware of the army's sudden appearance, indicating that the children are in charge. The day's curfew is imposed by a soldier, and all adults are sent home. Paul works on a strategy to stop the kids as he sneaks out to see Susanna. Paul asks Susanna to rescue Nathan as well because Nathan doesn't want to be one of them. Susanna wants to save Cassie. Bernard and the kids don't believe Susanna when she says she wants to come along because she loves them when she goes to the school. They let her give her daughter one last hug when a second mother suddenly shows up. However, the soldiers shoot the mother when she tries to take the girl away. Susanna feigns acceptance of this to win their trust after Cassie realizes the truth. Before they lock the door, Susanna gives Nathan the note he left and asks him to warn Paul. She is finally accepted into the group and sent to the basement with Cassie to protect her from an approaching blackout. Paul is making a bomb in the meantime. He gets a call from Nathan, who once more uses pain to hide the fact that he is telling his father to hide from the kids. Paul, in turn, manages to warn Zoe and Sam, who hide with their infant in the basement of their neighbor. At that point, all of the kids form a circle outside the school, knocking out the power and rendering everyone who wasn't protected unconscious. The soldiers then go to every house to get rid of any evidence that the kids were ever there, as this second blackout was done to wipe everyone's memories out. The kids check on their parents in the morning to see if they've forgotten anything. Jody didn't recognize Nathan, which made Nathan sad, but Nathan also saw Paul hiding nearby and confirmed that he was fine. Ellie accidentally calls Hannah's sister by mistake, and Hannah becomes suspicious when she visits her parents and they act like they don't know her. Paul seizes the opportunity to sneak into one of the army trucks and kills a soldier who tried to steal his clothes. Now he can act like one of the soldiers. Zoe and Sam are about to leave when Hannah approaches them once more, this time to retaliate against them for lying. She changes her mind, however, when she sees Ellie, and she asks her parents to keep the secret before she leaves. When Nathan returns to the school, Susanna tells him to run away with Cassie, and the two make their escape through the woods. Paul removes the bomb-laden bag from the bag while the soldiers prepare a bus for the children. When the kids find out that Nathan is missing, they send the soldiers after him. However, when Nathan slips into a bear trap by accident, the pain causes the kids to lose track of him. Susanna informs them that Nathan is unquestionably a threat to the hive and ought to be terminated, and that she is the new hostage, so they do not require Cassie either. Nathan is released from the connection as soon as the kids realize her point. As Bernard and the soldiers escort the children with their trucks, the bus departs with them. Bernard receives a message when they reach the edge of town informing him of the discovery of an unconscious soldier, prompting him to halt the journey and conduct an investigation. Paul is forced to immediately turn on the bomb, which causes the bus to explode, killing Susanna and the children inside. Zoe, Sam, and Cassie see the explosion from a distance and realize that they are now free.